My name is Nora Callahan. I'm 42, a fragrance curator in Portland, Oregon, a job that sounds fancier than it is. I blend scents for boutique perfumeries, crafting bottles of memory for strangers. Rose and cedar for a first love sage, and sea salt for a coastal escape. It's quiet work, intimate, but it's mine. I built this life from nothing, one drop at a time. And every day I carry a small glass vial on a leather cord around my neck, not a perfume, but a blend I made when I was 19. It smells of bergamot and rain, the only thing that's ever felt like home. I don't open it anymore, but I can't let it go. Portland's misty mornings suit me. My studio is a converted warehouse in the Pearl District, all exposed brick and skylights that catch the gray Pacific Northwest light. It's where I feel alive, surrounded by amber bottles and the hum of possibility. But outside those walls, there's a weight I've carried for years. A weight named Julianne. Julianne is my cousin, but we were raised like sisters. Our mothers, twins themselves, built their lives side by side in matching craftsman houses on the same street. Growing up, we were inseparable. Nora and Jules, the Callahan cousins, always together at family barbecues, whispering secrets under the willow tree in my backyard. But even then, I felt it. The way my aunt's eyes lingered on Julianne, proud and expectant, while my mother's gaze on me was softer, almost apologetic. Julianne was the star charismatic destined for greatness. I was the steady one, the one who'd figure it out. I didn't mind, not really. I loved Julianne. She was the kind of person who walked into a room and made it brighter. When we were kids, she'd drag me into her wild ideas, selling lemonade to fund our world tour, sneaking into the community theater to watch rehearsals. I was her shadow, happy to follow. But as we got older, the gap widened. Julianne went to a private arts academy, her paintings winning awards before she was 16. I stayed at public school mixing scents in my bedroom and working weekends at a candle shop to save for college. My parents said they believed in me, but their wallets opened faster for Julianne's dreams. Last month, I stood in my studio blending a custom order for a client's wedding when my phone buzzed. A text from my mother, family dinner at our place tonight. Julianne's got big news. 7 p.m. sharp. I stared at the screen, the vial around my neck suddenly heavy. Another family dinner. Another night of Julianne's light eclipsing mine. I told myself I was over it. 42 is too old for childhood grudges. But as I drove to my parents' house, the old ache crept in, sharp as the bergamot in my vial. The dining room was warm with candlelight, the table set with my mother's best china. Julianne sat at the head, her auburn hair catching the glow, her laugh filling the space. My parents flanked her, beaming. My uncle and aunt were there too, their pride in Julianne practically radiating. I slid into my seat, the odd one out, as always. "Nora, you made it," Julianne said, her smile wide but fleeting. "Tell me, how's the perfume thing going?" "It's fragrance curation," I corrected, my voice quieter than I meant. "It's going well, just finished a big order." "That's so cute," she said, already turning to my father. "Dad, you'll never guess what happened." Cute. My life's work reduced to a pat on the head. I gripped the vial under my shirt, its cool glass grounding me. Then came her news. Julianne had landed a solo exhibition at a prestigious gallery in Seattle. Not just any gallery, one backed by a tech billionaire who'd flown her to Paris to meet collectors. "It's a game changer," she said, her eyes sparkling. "They're calling me the next big thing in immersive art." My parents erupted in praise, my aunt already planning a trip to the opening. I smiled, nodded, sipped my wine. But inside, something twisted. After dessert, I slipped into the kitchen to help my mother with dishes needing a break from Julianne's orbit. That's when I heard it, my father's voice, low and serious, coming from the living room. "We're so proud of Jules," he said to my uncle. "She's going places. Nora, though, she's fine, but we can't keep funneling money into her little hobby. Julianne's career needs our focus now." My hands froze in the soapy water. Hobby. My business, my passion. The thing I'd clawed my way to build without their help, dismissed as a hobby. And the money I'd never asked for a dime, not since college when they'd loaned me $5,000 and made me pay it back with interest while Julianne got a full ride from them for her art school. The vial around my neck felt like it was burning my skin. I stepped back, my heart pounding. The kitchen door creaked, and my mother appeared, her face paling when she saw me. "Nora, you weren't supposed to hear that." "But I did," I said, my voice sharp. "Is that really what you think of me?" She fumbled for words, but I was already moving, grabbing my coat. Julianne called after me as I reached the front door. "Nora, wait." "What's wrong?" Her concern looked real, but I couldn't trust it. "Not anymore. I'm done," I said, the words spilling out. Done being the afterthought. "Enjoy your spotlight, Jules." I drove back to my studio, the city lights blurring through tears. The vial bounced against my chest, with every turn a reminder of who I'd been before I let their version of me take root. That night, alone among my bottles and scents, I made a promise. I'd show them, Julianne, my parents, all of them, what I was capable of. Not to hurt them, but to prove I was more than their shadow. And I'd start by uncovering the truth they'd buried about why they'd always chosen her over me. I didn't sleep that night. My studio felt too small, the air thick with the ghosts of scents I'd blended over the years. I sat on the hardwood floor, the glass vial in my hands, its leather cord tangled between my fingers. Bergamot and rain. It was the first scent I'd ever made back when I was 19, dreaming of a life bigger than the one my family had planned for me. I hadn't opened it in years, afraid the smell would bring back too much. But tonight, I needed answers. I needed to understand why I'd always been the one left behind. Growing up in Portland, Julianne and I were like two sides of the same coin. Her house was all polished wood and art prints. Mine was cozy, but cluttered with my mom's knitting projects, spilling over every chair. Our moms, being twins, were obsessed with keeping us close. Family dinners, summer camping trips, even matching Easter dresses until we were 12. Julianne was the spark, always laughing, always dreaming up some grand adventure. I was the one who made her dreams work. When she wanted to build a treehouse, I was the one hauling plywood and hammering nails. When she decided we'd start a band, I taught myself guitar while she wrote lyrics she never finished. I didn't mind. Her light made my world brighter. But there were cracks even back then. I'd catch my parents whispering with my aunt and uncle, their voices dropping when I walked in. "Julianne's got a gift," my dad would say, showing off her latest watercolor. Nora's dependable. It stung, but I swallowed it. I told myself it didn't matter. I had my own dreams, mixing scents, capturing moments in glass bottles. By high school, I was sneaking chemistry books from the library, teaching myself how to distill lavender oil in our garage. Julianne was off at her fancy art school, her tuition covered by my parents, and hers pooling their savings. I applied to a state college with a chemistry program, but when I asked for help with the fees, my mom's face tightened. "We're stretched thin, Nora. Julianne's school. It's an investment. Investment." That word stuck with me. Julianne was the stock they bet on. I was the safe bond expected to hold steady without much fuss. I worked double shifts at the candle shop, saved every penny, and got into college anyway. But the gap kept growing. Julianne's art shows were family events, everyone piling into cars to cheer her on. My first fragrance commission, I celebrated alone with a $3 latte. I'd call home hoping for a shred of pride, but the conversation always swung back to Julianne. "She's got a gallery interested in her work," my mom would say. Isn't that amazing? Yeah, amazing. The morning after the dinner, I couldn't shake my dad's words. Her little hobby. I needed air, so I walked to the Willamette River, the mist curling off the water like a living thing. That's where I ran into Marisol, the owner of the coffee cart I passed every day. She was in her 50s with silver streaks in her hair and eyes that saw right through you. I'd always liked her. She'd slip me free coffee sometimes, saying my work made the city smell better. Today, she took one look at me and handed me a steaming cup. "You look like you're carrying the world, Nora. Want to talk?" I didn't, not really. But something about her voice, warm, steady, pulled the words out. I told her about the dinner, about my dad calling my career a hobby, about Julianne always being the golden one. Marisol listened, stirring sugar into her own coffee, her cart's awning dripping with rain. When I finished, she leaned back, her bracelets clinking. "Sounds like they've been writing your story for you," she said. "But you're the one holding the pen. Ever wonder why they pushed Julianne so hard? What they're hiding behind all that shine?" Hiding. The thought hadn't crossed my mind. I'd always assumed it was just Julianne, her talent, her charm. But Marisol's words stuck like a splinter I couldn't ignore. "What do you mean?" I asked, gripping my vial. She shrugged, wiping down her counter. "Families are funny. Sometimes they lift one person up to cover something else, something they don't want you to see. My sister was the star in our house too. Turned out my parents were funneling money through her success to hide their own messes. Took me years to figure it out. I stared at her, the river's current loud in my ears. "You think my family's hiding something? I think you're smart enough to find out," she said, her smile sharp. "Start with what they don't talk about. The stuff they change the subject on." I walked back to my studio, Marisol's words looping in my head. The stuff they don't talk about. Like why my parents never mentioned their finances, even when I begged for help with college. Or why my aunt and uncle were so quick to bankroll Julianne's art, but never offered me a dime. I pulled out my laptop, my hands shaky, and started digging. Old emails, bank statements I'd saved from my college days, anything that might hold a clue. That's when I found a transfer notice from my parents' account to an art supply company I'd never heard of, dated the same month they told me they couldn't afford my tuition. $10,000 for Julianne's materials, they'd said. I leaned back, my heart racing. The vial around my neck caught the light, its bergamot and rain scent sealed inside, whispering memories of a girl who'd trusted her family to see her. Marisol was right. There was something they weren't saying. And I was done waiting for them to tell me what it was. I'd find the truth myself, even if it meant tearing apart the story they'd written for me. Because if I was going to rewrite my life, I needed to know exactly what I was up against. I couldn't stop thinking about that $10,000 transfer. It was like a loose thread in a sweater one tug, and the whole thing might unravel. I sat in my studio, the vial around my neck, catching the dim light of my desk lamp. Bergamot and rain. It grounded me, reminded me of the girl who'd mixed her first scent in a garage, believing her family saw her potential. Now I wasn't so sure. Marisol's words echoed in my head. Start with what they don't talk about. I needed to know what my parents were hiding, why they'd poured everything into Julianne while leaving me to scrape by. I started digging deeper. The art supply company from the transfer notice, Evergreen Creations, wasn't just some random vendor. A quick search showed it was a shell corporation dissolved years ago with no real address. Weird. I cross-checked my old bank statements, hunting for more clues. There were other transfers, smaller but regular, from my parents' account to similar vague names. Consulting fees, event sponsorships, always tied to Julianne's art career. My stomach twisted. This wasn't about paintbrushes. This was something bigger. I needed perspective, so I headed to Marisol's coffee cart by the Willamette. The river was choppy today, mirroring the storm in my chest. Marisol was there pouring espresso with her usual calm. "Back so soon," she said, sliding me a coffee. "Find anything?" I hesitated, then spilled it, the transfers, the shell company, the way my parents always framed Julianne's art, as their investment. Marisol's eyes narrowed. "Sounds like they're using her as a front," she said, wiping her hands on her apron. "My family did something similar. Funneled money through my sister's charity to dodge taxes." "You got access to their financials?" "Not really," I admitted. "They've always been cagey about money." She leaned closer, her voice low. "Check Julianne's art sales. If they're moving money through her, it'll show up in her deals. Galleries keep records." I froze. Julianne's art. It was the one thing I'd never questioned. Her paintings were stunning, vibrant abstracts that seemed to hum with life. But Marisol's suggestion made sense. What if her success wasn't just talent? What if it was a cover? I thanked her, my coffee untouched, and headed back to my studio, a new fire in my gut. That night, I went down a rabbit hole. Julianne's gallery in Seattle had a public archive of sales. I found her page, dozens of paintings sold for thousands, some tens of thousands. But the buyers were odd. No collectors' names, just LLCs and trusts with generic names like Pacific Holdings or Evergreen Ventures. The same names popped up in my parents' transfers. My heart pounded. I cross-referenced the sale dates with my parents' bank records. Every major sale matched a deposit into their account, minus a small cut to Julianne. I sat back the vial cold against my skin. This wasn't favoritism. This was a scheme. My parents weren't just betting on Julianne, they were using her art to launder money. Her exhibitions, her big breaks were a front to move cash through fake buyers. And Julianne. Either she was in on it or she was their pawn. Both possibilities made me sick. I needed to be sure. I drove to my parents' house the next morning, unannounced. My mom was in the garden clipping roses, her hands shaky when she saw me. "Nora, what's wrong?" "You look upset." "I need to see Dad's old tax files," I said, keeping my voice steady. "For a business thing." Her face tightened. "Those are private, honey. Why don't you—" "Now, Mom." I stepped closer, the vial swinging against my chest. Or I start asking Julianne about her gallery deals. She went pale like I'd slapped her. "Nora, don't. You don't understand." "Then explain it," I snapped. "Why'd you send $10,000 to a fake art supply company when you said you couldn't afford my college? Why do your deposits match Julianne's sales?" She dropped her clippers, the roses scattering. "You've been snooping." "Damn right I have." My voice shook, but I didn't back down. "What's going on? Are you laundering money through her art?" The silence was deafening. Then my dad appeared at the door, his face hard. Nora inside. Now. We sat in their living room, the same one where I'd overheard them call my work a hobby. My dad didn't deny it. "It's not what you think," he said, his voice low. "We had debts, bad ones, from my old construction business. Julianne's art. It was a way to clean things up. Move money through buyers we trusted." "Trusted?" I laughed, the sound bitter. "You mean fake? You used her to hide your mess." "We didn't have a choice," my mom whispered, tears in her eyes. "We were protecting the family. You included." Protecting me, I stood, the vial burning against my skin. "You let me think I wasn't good enough. You let me beg for scraps while you funneled everything to her." "Was she in on it?" "No," my dad said quickly. "She doesn't know. We kept her in the dark. She thinks her art's selling because she's talented." I stared at them, these strangers I'd called parents. The twist hit me like a wave. Julianne wasn't the golden child because she was better. She was their tool, same as I was their afterthought. They'd built a lie around us, both her as the star, me as the shadow, to cover their crimes. The vial felt heavier now, its scent locked inside like the truth I'd buried for years. I walked out, ignoring their pleas. My phone buzzed, Julianne texting about her gallery opening. "You coming, Nora?" It'd mean a lot. I stared at the words, my thumb hovering. She didn't know, but I did. And that changed everything. I drove away from my parents' house, the city lights smearing through my windshield like wet paint. My hands gripped the wheel, the vial around my neck thumping against my chest with every heartbeat. Bergamot and rain. It was the only thing keeping me anchored as the truth sank in. My parents had used Julianne's art to launder money, propping her up as the golden child while dismissing me as the spare. Worse, Julianne didn't even know. She was as much a pawn as I was caught in their lie. But knowing that didn't erase the years of feeling less than. It just made the hurt sharper, like inhaling a scent too strong to stomach. I ended up at my studio, the familiar hum of the space doing little to calm me. Julianne's text still glowed on my phone. "You coming, Nora?" It'd mean a lot. Her gallery opening was tomorrow in Seattle. Part of me wanted to ignore it, to let her bask in her fake success, and pretend I hadn't seen the ugly truth. But another part, the part that remembered us building treehouses and sneaking into theaters, couldn't let go. If I was going to rewrite my story, I needed to face her. Not to destroy her, but to understand who we both were without our parents' script. The next morning, I stopped by Marisol's coffee cart. The Willamette was calm today, its surface like glass under the gray sky. Marisol took one look at me and handed me a coffee, no questions asked. "You found it, didn't you?" she said, her voice soft but sure. I nodded, staring at the steam curling from the cup. They've been laundering money through her art. Fake buyers, shell companies, the works. Julianne doesn't know. They used us both her to clean their mess me to stay out of the way. Marisol whistled low, leaning against her cart. That's a heavy load, Nora. What's your next move? I gripped the vial, its cool glass steadying me. I'm going to her gallery opening. I need to see her to figure out if she's worth telling. But I don't know how to face her without breaking everything. Marisol's eyes softened. You don't have to break anything. Just show up as you. The woman who built this life, she gestured toward my studio across the street without their help. That's your power, not their lies. Her words stuck with me as I drove to Seattle, the vial bouncing against my chest. The gallery was all sleek lines and soft lighting packed with art types in black turtlenecks sipping overpriced wine. Julianne stood in the center, her auburn hair glowing under the spotlights, her smile dazzling as she talked up her paintings. For a moment, I saw the girl who dragged me into her wild dreams. Then I saw the truth. Every sale, every glowing review was tainted by our parents' scheme. She spotted me and broke away, her smile faltering as she got closer. Nora, you came, I wasn't sure, after, the other night. Yeah, I said, my voice tight. We need to talk. Somewhere private. Her brows furrowed, but she led me to a back room away from the crowd. The space smelled of canvas and turpentine, her paintings leaning against the walls like silent witnesses. What's going on? She asked, crossing her arms. You've been weird since dinner. I took a breath, the vial heavy against my skin. Your art sales. The big collectors, the LLCs. They're not real jewels. They're fronts. Our parents have been using your exhibitions to launder money. For years. Her face went blank, then crumpled. What? No. That's insane. My work sells because it's good. I've worked my whole life for this. I thought so too, I said, softer now. But I found the records. Every sale matches a deposit to their account. They've been moving dirty money through your art, calling it an investment. They told me you didn't know. She sank onto a crate, her hands shaking. They said I was special, that I was their legacy. You're saying it was all a lie. Not all of it, I said, surprising myself. Your art is real. Your talent is real. But they used it. Just like they used me, telling me I wasn't worth their time. Her eyes met mine, wet with tears. You think I wanted that? To be their favorite, I thought you were the lucky one, Nora. You built your life without them breathing down your neck. I had to be perfect every single day, or they'd lose it. I stared at her, the vial warming under my fingers. For the first time, I saw her not as the golden child, but as someone trapped in the same cage I'd been in, just a different corner. I'm sorry, I said, the words heavy. I thought you were part of it. I was wrong. She wiped her face, her voice raw. What do we do now if this comes out? My career's over. Everything I've built, gone. I didn't have an answer, not yet. But standing there watching her unravel, I felt something shift. This wasn't about tearing her down. It was about breaking free, both of us. We don't have to decide tonight, I said. But we're not their puppets anymore. We figure this out together. She nodded, hesitant, like she was seeing me for the first time. As we left the room, the gallery's buzz felt distant, unreal. I touched the vial, its scent still sealed inside, and made a choice. I wouldn't let our parents' lies define us. I'd build something new, not for revenge, but for the truth. And I'd start by helping Julianne see she was more than their canvas. I stood in my studio, the vial around my neck, catching the morning light. Bergamot and rain. It wasn't just a scent anymore. It was a promise I'd made to myself at 19 to build a life that was mine. For years, I'd let my parents' lies dim that promise, casting me as the shadow to Julianne's star. But now, knowing they'd used her art to launder money, used us both to hide their debts, I saw the truth. Freedom wasn't about exposing them. It was about choosing who I wanted to be and helping Julianne do the same. The gallery opening had changed everything. Julianne's tears, her raw confession about the pressure to be perfect, had cracked something open in me. We weren't rivals. We were survivors of the same twisted game. That night, we'd agreed to meet again to decide what to do with the truth. But first, I needed clarity. I headed to Marisol's coffee cart, the Willamette River, sparkling under a rare sunny sky. Marisol was there, her silver-streaked hair tied back her smile, warm as she handed me a coffee. "You look lighter today," she said, eyeing me over her steaming mug. What happened? I told her about confronting Julianne about her shock and the weight of our parents' betrayal. She didn't know I said gripping the vial. Now we've got a choice: blow it all up, turn them into the feds, or something else. I don't want to ruin her life, Marisol. But I can't let them keep controlling us. Marisol nodded, wiping down her cart. Justice doesn't always mean punishment. Sometimes it's about taking back what's yours. Your story, your future. What do you want, Nora? Not them, not Julianne, you. I stared at the river, the vial warm against my skin. What did I want? Not revenge, not anymore. I wanted my work to matter, my life to be enough. And I wanted Julianne to have that too, without our parents' lies, chaining her to a false pedestal. I want us to be free, I said finally. To build something real together. Then start there, Marisol said, her voice steady. Show the world who you both are, not what they made you. Her words lit a spark. That afternoon, I called Julianne and asked her to meet me at my studio. She showed up in jeans and a faded sweater, no trace of the gallery's polished artist. Her eyes were red, but there was a fire in them I hadn't seen before. I've been thinking, she said, pacing between my amber bottles. If we go public, my career's toast. But if we do nothing, they win. I can't live with that, Nora. Me neither, I said, leaning against my workbench. But we don't have to burn it all down. What if we take control, use your art, my sense, to tell our story without their lies? She stopped, her brows knitting. What do you mean? I pulled out a sketch I'd been working on, a pop-up exhibit, blending her paintings with my fragrances. Each piece would pair a canvas with a scent evoking emotions tied to our journey: betrayal, resilience, freedom. We'd host it in Portland independently, no galleries, no fake buyers. Just us, raw and real. We tell the truth through our work, I said. Not their crimes, but what it cost us. What we're building now. Julianne's eyes widened. You'd do that work with me after everything. You're not them, I said, touching the vial. You're my cousin, and I think we're stronger together. She hugged me sudden and fierce, like we were kids again under the willow tree. Let's do it, she whispered. Let's show them who we are. The next month was a blur. We rented a warehouse in Portland's Alberta Arts District, a gritty space with concrete floors and skylights. Julianne painted like her life depended on it. Bold, abstract pieces that screamed truth. I blended scents to match cedar and ash for the sting of betrayal, jasmine, and salt for healing. We called the exhibit Unframed, a nod to breaking free from our parents' script. Marisol spread the word through her coffee cart regulars, and soon local blogs were buzzing about the cousins redefining art and scent. Our parents caught wind of it. My mom called, her voice shaky. Nora, what's this exhibit? Are you exposing us? No, I said, my tone calm. We're exposing ourselves. Our truth, not yours. You don't get to control this one. She went quiet, then hung up. They didn't show up to the opening, and I didn't care. The warehouse was packed, artists, locals, even a few critics from Seattle. Julianne's paintings glowed under the lights, my scents drifting through the air, weaving stories of pain and power. People lingered, some crying, some whispering about how the work hit home. A woman in her 50s, tears in her eyes, told me, "This feels like my family too. Thank you for showing me I'm not alone." Julianne and I stood together at the end, watching the crowd. They see us, she said, her voice thick. Not their version. Us. Yeah, I said, the vial light against my chest. We did that. The exhibit didn't just heal us, it grew. Unframed became a touring project, hitting small venues across the Northwest. Julianne's art found real buyers, no LLCs, just people who felt her work in their bones. My fragrance business doubled, with orders pouring in from clients who'd experienced our scents. We didn't turn our parents in. Their silence, their absence from our lives, was punishment enough. The feds could find them without our help. Marisol's contacts hinted they were already sniffing around. One night after a show in Eugene, I sat in my hotel room, the vial in my hands. I opened it for the first time in years. The bergamot and rain hit me like a memory, sharp and alive. I wasn't the girl who'd made it any more desperate for her family's approval. I was Nora Callahan, fragrance curator, co-creator of Unframed. A woman who'd built her own legacy with the cousin she'd once envied. I sealed the vial and slipped it back around my neck, its weight no longer a burden, but a reminder. The sweetest justice isn't tearing someone else down. It's building yourself up brick by brick until the world sees you as you are. As I looked out at the city lights, Julianne texted me a photo from the exhibit. A painting of two figures blurred, but free under a sky of rain. For us, she wrote. I smiled, knowing we'd rewritten our story, not with revenge, but with something far better truth in each other.